Well, dear brothers and sisters, as I said at the beginning of Mass, I was away for a month leading the novices on retreat, and I just wanted to share a little bit about that as we get started here in this homily. First, here's a photo of the entrance to our retreat house. It's in Slinger, Wisconsin, which is about 45 minutes northwest of Milwaukee, and it's nestled among a bunch of like cornfields and whatnot. So it's a really beautiful place, quiet, wonderful place to pray. You can see one of our novices there sitting on the bench looking out over the field. And here's another one walking along the driveway. Really a beautiful place. This is the inside of the chapel as well. It was a powerful retreat experience for our 4 novices who are preparing for their first vows. Actually, 3 of them are on track for first vows in August, and 1 would make his vows later. But all 4 of them were making this retreat. At the end, of course, it was fun too. The last day we had a little fire pit, and here we are enjoying some s'mores, and I had my own variation on a s'more. Instead of marshmallow, I like to use peanut butter. So chocolate, peanut butter, and graham cracker, great combination. In God's providence, we also met up with someone you'll recognize, Megan Zaleski. It just so happened that on the day after the retreat ended, as we were preparing to leave and I was preparing to come back here, Megan and the Eucharistic pilgrims were passing through the town that we were in. They were passing through Slinger, and they walked from about a quarter mile down the road from our house to the parish of St. Peter's, the parish church there in the town, and so I got to join them. This is Brother Elliot there with Megan. One of our seminarians is Brother Elliot, and we walked to the church. And it was great to see Megan and the other pilgrims. You can see the line there kind of in the background. It was a beautiful experience to see so many people just venerating the Eucharist, walking with Jesus, and a lot of people came out from the town, from that area, to walk with the pilgrims. It was a beautiful thing. Well, in our readings today, the readings allow us to reflect on the question of how do we handle stress, chaos. We heard about Jesus who was in the boat when all the waves were crashing on the boat. And naturally, understandably, the disciples were a little bit freaked out, as we would say. And I've had an experience a little bit like this. I was once on a sailboat. Once. This isn't me. This is just a photo I found online. But it was a big sailboat like that one. And the owner was a friend of mine, and he let me drive. I know there are special technical nautical terms. You don't drive a sailboat, you probably skipper it. Well, anyway, the wind was blowing pretty forcefully. It was a clear day, but there was a lot of wind. We were out in the Pacific Ocean, and the wind was blowing so much that the boat was continually leaned over, like you see in the photo here. And I remember I was sitting there trying to steer and feeling like I was, looking out over the water below me. It was such a steep angle, and I thought, surely we're going to crash, or the waves are going to swamp us, or something like that. And the guy who owned the boat said, "No, this is normal. That's what the sailboat does. It's designed to do that. There's no problem." But for me, I was nervous, and I was, almost not quite panicking, but it was a rather frightening experience. So I can understand very well what the disciples were going through. This is a painting by Rembrandt, the 17th century painter, of the scene that we heard in our gospel today, the disciples with Jesus in the boat. And this is a fascinating, beautiful painting, because we see here on the right-hand side, it's a little dark, but on the right-hand side, near the bottom there, is Jesus. And the disciples around him are just looking at him. And in that part of the scene, if we were to sort of cut the scene in half, so to speak, on the right-hand side, things are relatively peaceful. But what's happening on the left, that's where the waves are crashing, and it's chaos. The boat is that part of the boat is way up in the air, but the right hand is peaceful. So where Jesus is, there's calm, there's peace. Where it's just the waves, there's the chaos. And what's also fascinating about this picture is you'll notice on the right-hand side, what are the people looking at? What are the disciples looking at? They're looking at Jesus. What are the disciples doing, and what are they looking at on the left-hand side? They're looking at the mast, they're looking at the sail, maybe the ropes, maybe the waves, all the things other than Jesus. And you can see that they're really working hard, they're trying to use their own efforts, doing all good things, no doubt. But ultimately, the ones who are feeling calm, the ones who are really doing well, so to speak, are the ones on the right, the ones who are closest to Jesus and the ones who are just gazing upon him. Now, this is a wonderful lesson for all of us here today, because we all have our chaos in life. We all have the ups and downs. The world is in chaos. So whether we're just reading the newspaper and wondering, how is the God going to solve all these problems, or maybe it's stuff in our own lives, chaos within our own families, disagreements, tensions, arguments. Where is Jesus? Right? We have the opportunity, the invitation to just turn to him with everything. Have you ever heard it said, sometimes when things are going really badly, someone will say, well, all we can do now is pray. You've heard that? But what's wrong with that idea? Right? Shouldn't it be the first thing that we do is to pray? Right? With whatever chaos we're facing, the Lord is inviting us to turn to him, to know that he's in the boat with us. He's got it, so to speak. That was the whole point of the passage from the first reading from the book of Job. Job has lost everything, his family, his possessions. And he has some friends trying to tell him what his problems are and why he's lost everything. Basically, they're telling him, well, you're a big sinner, or you're prideful. The problem's with you. You haven't done enough. And God says to Job, as we heard in the first reading, well, where were you when I created the seas? In other words, I've created everything. The whole universe is created out of love for you and my children. I'm the God of the universe. In other words, I've got this. You don't have to worry. I'm going to take care of things. That was God's message to Job. Well, it was God's message to the disciples here in the boat as well. Jesus is so confident that he has the power given to him by his heavenly Father that Jesus can sleep peacefully in the midst of chaos. And sometimes we're wondering, well, Lord, how about you wake up maybe and help me with my chaos, right? But the Lord is saying to us the same thing. Where were you when I created the universe? I am here. I am the source of calm and peace in your life. Whatever problems you have, surrender them to me. I'll take care of them. I experienced this firsthand, how God just sort of takes care of things for us. When, after I was ordained a priest, I was sent to Rome to study for a licentiate degree. It's a half doctorate. It's a 2-year program. And I had to write a big thesis. It was almost 200 pages. And I spent the whole first semester of that second year writing the first chapter. It was supposed to be 3 chapters. And as that first semester drew to a close, I knew I only had 1 semester left to finish the last 2 chapters. And I was starting to panic. How am I going to get this done? Well, I even started to have chest pains. It was so stressful for me. I would wake up in the middle of the night and immediately my thoughts would start turning to the thesis and I wouldn't be able to sleep. I eventually went to the doctor and the doctor said, there's nothing wrong with your heart, it's just stress. So, try not to think about your thesis. I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. Then he said, drink some tea. I was like, okay, well, that didn't help much. What did help, though, was that someone said to me, what would happen if you didn't finish your thesis on time? Because that's what was the source of the stress, was just the pressure. I had to finish this on time. They said, what would happen if you didn't finish on time? I said, well, I never thought of that. I guess I would just have to stay longer here in Rome. And they said, would that be so bad? And I said, well, no, I guess not. I could eat more gelato. I could have more pasta. And I could take my time and finish my thesis. And so I continued working at a much more relaxed pace, and the stress just kind of faded away, thankfully. Well, as I finished that second semester, I was now about done with the second chapter, still had one more to go, and then the thought just came to me kind of out of the blue, what if I were just to cancel the third chapter and cut the second chapter into 2 parts and call that my thesis? Then I'd be done. And I had to get approval of my superior general. I had to get approval from the school, but they all approved it, and it went just fine. I finished the thesis, turned it in, and I was done on the original time schedule and graduated on time. God does these things. He really does these things. It's amazing how much he does for us. And, things don't necessarily go the way we want or expect, but who's in control? The Lord is. And that's what he taught me the lesson of through my thesis. And that's the lesson that he's trying to remind all of us in the midst of our chaos. Why does he allow us to face chaos and difficulty and stresses in our lives? Precisely so that we'll turn to him in the beginning, not just at the end when it's all falling apart, but in the beginning even, and saying, Lord, you've got this. I'm trusting in you. I surrender this to you. This is the beautiful central theme in the whole Divine Mercy message, and it's why I love coming back to this message. Jesus, I trust in you. It's what it's all about. Whatever we're facing, the Lord is constantly inviting us to keep saying these words, Jesus, I trust in you. And this is a wonderful lesson over and over again for us, because if all we do for the rest of our lives is just keep saying, Jesus, I trust in you, until we get to heaven, well, that's how he's going to get us there, right? Through all the ups and downs, through all the chaos, we'll be able to face it all. Doesn't mean it's going to go our way. There might be waves. There might even be shipwrecks. But through it all, the Lord's going to show us just how much he's in control of everything in our lives and how he's working out everything for our good. So with that conviction in our hearts, we are now more able to understand why we can say these words, Jesus, I trust in you. Because we know that the God of the universe, the God who created the waves and all the problems and the way, not that he created the problems, we create the problems, but he created the whole universe and everybody in it. And all these things that are seemingly beyond our control, they're in the Lord's control. And knowing that, that's what helps us to be able to say these words, Jesus, I trust in you. So may this be our prayer today in whatever chaos we're facing, and may it be for us the source of calm that lets us to just remain with Jesus in the back of the boat, no matter what kind of waves seem to be crashing in our lives. May the Lord keep our hearts always in that place of peace and keep us always saying, Jesus, I trust in you.